I want to start today with a statistic that I read in our source material. And I have to admit, it just stopped me
It
cold.
is a jarring number, isn't it?
Jarring is the word. So, picture this. You go to medical school, you graduate,
Yeah.
you somehow survive residency, which
Mm.
is, basically a hazing ritual,
Right, involving a lot of sleep
a
deprivation.
lot. And you have the white coat, the degree, the license. You are, by every definition, a doctor. But according to the research we're looking at today, it takes another decade,
A full 10 years.
10 years before you truly deeply understand complex clinical problems.
It's a startling observation.
Yeah.
And to be really clear right off the bat, that gap isn't about a lack of intelligence
No.
or laziness.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about some of the most disciplined, high-performing individuals in our society.
Exactly. I don't want anyone thinking we're bashing doctors here. They're working incredibly hard.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, and this is really the whole premise of our deep dive, is that the system they were trained in might be, well, let's call it architecturally flawed.
That's a good way to put it. For about the last century, we've been teaching the human body as a catalog of replacement parts.
The catalog model. That's the perfect image for it.
Yeah.
You learn the liver in one class, then you learn the heart in another, then the lungs. But the body doesn't work like that. It's not a catalog.
It's a network.
It's a network. And that distinction, catalog versus network, is the crux of what we're talking about.
It is. We are doing a deep dive into this fascinating white paper called Reintegrating Medicine. It's written by Levne Moten, a PhD from N5 Digital.
And Nemotin is proposing something, well, pretty radical.
He is. He's arguing that we can shave years off that learning curve
Yeah.
and create safer, more effective doctors by completely flipping the medical curriculum on its head.
He calls it an AI-ready model, which, I'll be honest, when I first saw that, I thought, oh, great, another pitch for how robots are going to replace doctors.
Right.
But that's not really what he's saying, is it?
No, not at all. In fact, it's almost the opposite. It's about doubling down on the things humans are good at, the
Yeah.
things AI struggles with. It's about biological realism.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this proposal. How do we get from just memorizing parts to actually understanding the system?
And why does changing how we teach anatomy make doctors better at using artificial intelligence?
It's a huge topic, but it all starts with a simple premise that Nemotin lays out really early in the paper.
We have to stop pretending the body is simple.
Yes. I loved his phrasing for this, the illusion of simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
The paper argues that the body looks simple to us because, well, most days nothing dramatic breaks.
Right. Think about your car. You get in, you turn the key, you drive to work. It feels like one simple action.
I'm driving.
But under the hood, you have thousands of explosions happening a minute, fluids circulating, gears meshing, sensors monitoring everything.
Okay, but here's where the comparison breaks down for me, and I think this is a key point. A car is designed with redundancy, right?
In many ways, yes.
If my radio breaks, the car still drives. If one spark plug misfires, I can probably limp home.
Exactly. A car is what you'd call loosely coupled, but the human body, Nemotin describes it as a tightly coupled biological system.
So very little true redundancy.
Very little. We have 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, sure, but functionally, everything relies on everything else.
Meaning if one major thing fails, there isn't a backup generator just waiting to kick in?
Not usually, no.
Oh.
If a major system fails, the stress doesn't just stay put. It immediately shifts to other parts of the network to compensate.
So when things fail in the body, they don't fail in isolation?
They cascade.
They cascade.
And this brings us right to the core problem with medical education today. Students spend the first 2 years, the preclinical years, just acquiring massive amounts of isolated details.
Memorizing the hand bones, the liver enzymes, drug interactions for the heart.
They're building the catalog.
A very impressive, very heady catalog.
Exactly. But the synthesis, the ability to connect the dots and see how liver failure is actually what's causing the hand tremor.
That comes much, much later.
It comes later, usually when they're in the clinic, under high pressure, responsible for actual human lives.
That sounds, well, terrifying. It's like learning how the engine connects to the wheels while you're already driving on the highway.
At 70 miles an hour,
Mm.
it's certainly stressful.
Yeah.
Nemotin's big argument is that medicine isn't intrinsically slow to learn. It's just that the sequencing is inefficient.
We're teaching facts first and integration later.
And he wants to do integration first.
Okay, let's unpack that. Integration first, because logically I struggle with that a little bit. How do you teach integration before you know the parts?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. If I don't know what a heart is, how can I understand how it connects to the lungs? Don't I need the vocabulary first?
You do. And Emoton has a very specific answer. He says instead of memorizing 100 isolated organs, you start by viewing the body through 3 universal circuits.
With 3 universal circuits. This was the part of the paper where I finally felt like I had a map.
That's a great analogy.
It felt like seeing the whole subway system map instead of just staring at photos of individual stations.
His point is that no matter how complex a clinical problem is, a broken leg, a heart attack, clinical depression, these 3 circuits are always involved. They're the glue.
So let's run through them because this frames everything. Circuit number 1 is blood circulation.
The delivery system. We all know this one, basically. It brings oxygen, nutrients, hormones, drugs to tissues.
And it hauls away the trash.
Hauls away the metabolic trash. If blood isn't moving, the game is over. It's the foundation.
Okay, simple enough. Circuit number 2, lymphatic circulation. Now, I have to be honest, I feel like the lymphatic system is the middle child of anatomy.
It's the unsung hero, for sure.
It never gets any attention until something goes really wrong.
Right. And in traditional education, it's often an afterthought. But in this network model, Emoton elevates it to a top-tier circuit. It maintains fluid balance so you don't puff up with edema.
But it's more than that.
Much more. It's the highway for immune surveillance.
So it's the sanitation and defense grid all in one.
Precisely. It clears out inflammatory byproducts. So if your lymphatic drainage is blocked, you're not just swollen, you're toxic, you're immunocompromised. It connects the plumbing to the defense.
Okay. And finally, circuit number 3, nervous control.
The command center. This is your rapid sensing, coordination, all the autonomic regulation. It's keeping the lights on and the temperature right without you even having to think about it.
So what Emoton is saying is, before you learn the Latin name for every tiny bone in the foot,
Yes.
you need to understand how these 3 circuits tie the foot to the brain, the heart, and the immune system.
Exactly. These circuits are the unifying framework. If a student understands these 3 systems deeply, they have a scaffold. Any new fact they learn about some rare kidney disease, say, can immediately be hung on that scaffold.
So they can ask, how does this affect blood flow? How does this impact fluid balance?
How is the nervous system sensing this? It creates a context for the facts, rather than just a bucket of facts.
But he goes further. He wants to restructure the actual units of study. And this is where I think the proposal gets really interesting.
He wants to abolish the digestive system and the respiratory system as we know them.
He wants to move to what he calls functional organ groups, or AF organs.
Off-hogs. It sounds like weather, but it's anatomy.
Yes. So in a traditional textbook, the lungs are in the respiratory chapter, chapter 4. The heart is in the cardiovascular chapter, chapter 8.
They're separate entities. They're studied weeks, maybe months apart.
But in the body, they're roommates. They work the same shift.
They're inseparable. So Emoton says, let's define groups not by location, but by clinically meaningful questions.
Okay, let's test this. One of the groups in the paper is Group 1, oxygen delivery and gas exchange. If I'm a traditional student, I'm just thinking, lungs, done.
And that is exactly why the traditional model fails. Because the question isn't what brings air in.
The question is, do the tissues receive oxygen?
Right, and to answer that, you need the lungs, obviously.
But you need the heart to pump the blood.
Correct. But keep going. You need the blood itself, specifically hemoglobin, to carry the oxygen.
You need the brainstem to tell the diaphragm to contract.
And here is where the network model just shines. You need the kidneys.
Okay, that's where you lose me. The kidneys, they make urine. Why are they in the oxygen group?
This is the perfect example of hidden coupling. The kidneys regulate acid-base balance in the blood. If your blood gets too acidic or too basic, it physically changes the shape of the hemoglobin molecule.
No way.
It changes how tightly it holds on to oxygen.
So even if my lungs are perfect, if my kidneys are failing, my blood might just refuse to pick up oxygen.
Exactly. And there's more. The kidneys produce a hormone, EPO, that tells your bone marrow to make more red blood cells.
So kidney failure means you stop making EPO, you become anemic.
And fewer red blood cells means less oxygen delivery.
Wow. So a patient with kidney failure is effectively suffocating at a cellular level, even if their lungs are crystal clear.
Precisely. In the functional organ group model, the kidneys are studied alongside the lungs because they are partners in oxygenation.
That makes so much sense. If I study kidneys in Chapter 8 and lungs in Chapter 4, I might miss that connection for years.
Or you memorize it as a trivia fact instead of understanding it as a fundamental mechanism.
Right. And the paper points out that organs belong to multiple groups. The kidney is in the oxygen group, the fluid balance group, the detoxification group.
And overlap is not a flaw. It reflects biological reality. I think that's a direct quote.
I loved that line. It's so true. We humans like neat little categories for our multiple choice exams.
But biology is messy. It overlaps. We should teach the overlap, not hide from it.
Let's look at one more group because I think it's so relevant today. Group 12, cognition, mood, and sleep.
This one is very forward-thinking. Usually, psychiatry is treated as this separate tower, completely disconnected from the rest of the body.
You go to a medical doctor for your body and a psychiatrist for your mind.
Exactly. But Group 12 combines them. It integrates the brain networks with the HPA axis, your body's stress response system, and even the gut.
The famous gut-brain axis.
Yep. We now know that gut health impacts mood through serotonin. We know that chronic inflammation, which is mediated by that lymphatic circuit we talked about,
The unsung hero.
can cross the blood-brain barrier and cause depression-like symptoms.
So this group teaches students that mental health is physically coupled to the rest of the body. You can't just treat the mood without considering metabolism, sleep, digestion.
It effectively kills the idea that it's all in your head.
It's in your head and your gut and your blood and your lymph nodes.
Exactly. The whole approach forces the student to look at the function, the job being done, not just the location.
But knowing the groups is just step one, right? The paper talks about a specific skill that comes from this, something called propagation reasoning.
This is the core skill. If functional organ groups is the map, then propagation reasoning is understanding the traffic flow.
It sounds like the difference between a snapshot and a movie.
That is a fair comparison. The paper argues that disease is never static. It spreads. It propagates.
So a physician shouldn't just be an encyclopedia that can name a disease.
They need to be a simulator. They have to anticipate the domino effect.
Okay, the paper gave some great examples of this. Let's walk through that renal failure scenario again.
Sure.
But this time as a propagation chain. Paint the picture for us.
Sorry. So, a patient's kidneys start failing. That's the initial event.
Yeah.
Step 1. Kidneys stop filtering, so fluid builds up. Where does it go?
Well, gravity pulls it to the legs first, right?
Initially. But eventually, it backs up into the lungs. Pulmonary edema.
Now the patient can't breathe. So group 6, detox, has failed, which causes group 1, oxygen, to fail.
And it doesn't stop there. The fluid overload stretches the heart chambers. Now you have cardiovascular instability.
And the toxins building up.
Right. The unfiltered toxins affect the brain, causing confusion. So a kidney problem is now a lung problem, a heart problem, and a brain problem.
And a doctor trained in the old catalog method might just treat the symptom they see first, the breathing trouble.
They might treat it as pneumonia, or see the confusion and order a CT scan of the brain. But a student trained in propagation reasoning sees the web immediately.
So they don't just treat the kidney.
They protect the lungs and the brain before the damage gets there. It's proactive versus reactive.
What is happening and where is it going next?
Exactly. The paper also uses hypotension, low blood pressure. It sounds like a simple number on a screen. Oh, your BP is 90/60.
A bit low.
But look at the propagation. If pressure drops, blood delivery perfusion to the organs drops.
Kidneys take a hit immediately.
Acute kidney injury. The brain gets less blood. Risk of stroke. But here's the subtle one. The gut barrier.
The gut.
The gut lining needs a huge amount of blood flow. If pressure drops, that barrier can fail. Bacteria from your intestines can leak into the bloodstream,
Which triggers the immune system.
which causes massive inflammation, which dilates the blood vessels, which drops the blood pressure even further.
It's a feedback loop, a vicious cycle.
And the integration first student is trained to spot that cycle early. They're constantly asking, what is inadequately supplied? What is insufficiently cleared? Where will the consequences show up next?
That feels like such a fundamental shift. I want to pivot back to the title of the paper for a minute. Toward an AI-ready medical education model. We haven't talked much about the AI part.
Right.
Why does this network model make doctors AI-ready?
This is a crucial point, and it might be the most timely part of the paper. We're entering an era where AI is becoming incredibly good at what we used to think being a doctor was.
You mean memorizing facts and matching patterns?
Yes. AI is fantastic at narrow pattern recognition. You give it a list of symptoms and labs, it can scan millions of journals in a second and give you a list of probable diagnoses.
So if a doctor's main value is being a walk-in textbook, they're in trouble.
They are obsolete. The human doctor's value is shifting away from memorization and toward whole-body reasoning, judgment under uncertainty, and human trust.
So the AI provides the data, maybe even the likely diagnosis, but the human has to understand if it makes sense in the context of this patient's network.
Exactly. Namoten calls AI a cognitive partner. But to be a good partner, you have to be able to critique their work. You have to know when the AI is hallucinating or missing context.
You can't just blindly follow the GPS. We've all heard stories of people driving into lakes because the GPS said, turn left.
It's the same idea. Imagine an AI suggests a strong diuretic drug for a heart condition. The logic is sound, remove fluid, help the heart.
Okay.
But the AI-ready physician needs to look at that and say, wait a minute, this patient has borderline kidney function. If I dehydrate them with this drug, I might solve the heart issue, but I'm going to crash their renal function, which will then compromise their lung function.
The AI might miss that subtle propagation because it's just optimizing for the heart.
Correct. The AI optimizes for the variable you gave it. The human must optimize for the whole system. The paper puts it beautifully, saying the physician needs to identify missing propagation considerations.
It's about retaining ownership of the decision. You use the tool, you don't surrender to it.
It emphasizes that we need to train doctors to think, not just to know. Knowing is becoming a commodity. It's on your phone.
Thinking, specifically systems thinking, is the premium skill.
Yes.
I want to loop back to the beginning. The goal is to reduce that 10-year gap. Does this actually produce safe doctors faster? Because fast medical school just sounds like a bad idea to me.
No, and Namoten is very firm on this. It is not cutting corners. He says the current education is the one that's inefficient because it requires so much relearning.
Relearning? What do you mean?
Well, think about it. You learn the anatomy of the heart in year 1. 2 years later, you have to relearn it in the context of heart disease. Then in residency, you relearn it again in the context of critical care.
You're constantly patching your mental model, tearing down the house to build an extension.
Exactly. By installing the correct mental model, the network model, from day 1, new knowledge just attaches to the scaffold. You don't have to unlearn the heart as a pump to learn the heart is an endocrine organ. You learned it all as part of the system from the start.
So this creates functional competence much earlier without sacrificing rigor.
That's the argument. And honestly, with the doctor shortages we're seeing, getting physicians to a high level of competence sooner is a huge win for society.
It's essential.
But it's more than speed. It's about quality. The paper ends with a quote that I think just summarizes the whole philosophy perfectly.
I have it right here. It's highlighted. Medicine taught as a catalog produces technicians. Medicine taught as a coupled network produces physicians capable of judgment, coordination, and trust.
That distinction, technician versus physician, is so powerful. A technician fixes a part.
Replaces the spark plugs.
A physician heals a person.
And in a world of complex chronic diseases and even more complex AI tools, we definitely need more physicians.
We need people who can see the web.
This has been such a fascinating look at how we learn and how the body actually works. It makes me look at my own body a little differently.
That's not just a collection of organs.
It's a constant dynamic conversation between blood, lymph, and nerves.
A beautiful network.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Lev Namoten's Reintegrating Medicine, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought. We've been talking about how doctors need to change their thinking, but what about us as patients?
That's an interesting angle.
If we accept that the body is a network where everything affects everything else, how does that change how we should describe our symptoms to a doctor? Are we isolating our own problems?
We do that. We self-triage.
Right. We go in and say, my knee hurts, and we forget to mention that we haven't been sleeping well and our digestion is off.
We think the knee is irrelevant to the stomach. But in a propagation model, that might be the critical clue.
Maybe we need to be better network narrators of our own bodies, something to chew on the next time you're in that waiting room.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Stay curious. See you next time.